Okay, so this is great because I just spent a good 5 minutes explaining how this is my first video where I'm experimenting with some things that I might want to develop or be a part of developing this year. And so I was just taking the opportunity to obviously be making a very wobbly video. Just me holding my iPhone. So I know it's ridiculous. I have some ideas about other stuff, but it's really just me playing, and gave the whole explanation of, my first time and not having a lot of equipment and just playing. And then I got to a place where I was going to flip the camera to show you what I wear when I'm hiking in this particular weather, and realized nothing had been recorded. So in an homage to definitely the fun of playing the first time, I'll start over. And I wasn't planning on doing a rehearsal, so maybe I can get more in. First, for those who don't know me, this is my faithful trail companion, Noelle. Hey, Noelle. You can tell that she is just annoyed if I stop her on the trail, much like me. Once she's on the trail, she really just wants to keep going. So, in fairness, there's also a lot of dogging to do. That's what I call the need to sniff where all the other dogs and animals have been and stop every 10 feet to 10 yards to make sure she's marking those same territories. So, talking on a trail. Why am I doing it? So, there are a couple of reasons. I am definitely encouraged creatively being outside, and especially through movement. So my consistent hiking, I always liked being outside, but my consistent hiking began when I had a tough couple years at work, and there was just a lot of stress. Some of it was good. The last year ended up being bad, but I figured I could be the cliche educator who needed a glass or bottle of wine every night, or I could go do something different about it. So I will say that the more difficult day I had, or the more creative the thoughts were that came, the faster the hiking was. So it was a double benefit for me, really. And I've since done some research on walk and talks and creativity through movement and how businesses use that. A dear friend of mine, Kit, and I actually did a presentation at our state technology conference about walking and talking, and that you could integrate technology, that you didn't have to. And I have to say, I was blessed to have 2 or 3 years working as part of a team in a district where there were a couple of us that found the creative energy and problem solving from being outside and moving. And I was blessed to have that opportunity where we may do it instead of lunch, taking a walk around the block, and we would either just do kind of a free, like what comes, almost like a brainstorming, but kind of deeper when you're outside, but also kind of if we were stuck or had some things that we had to talk through. Both can be very beneficial. So currently, where I work, the people that I work with, that's just not how they organize and find creativity in their thinking and problem solving. So I'm not going to be judgy about that for them. There's some interesting methods that they use that have expanded my thinking too, but I was encouraged by a professional friend at the tech conference last year, about 9 months ago, after doing the walk and talk, that this should be something I consider as a professional tool. The being out on the trail and my thinking and kind of piecing together, and maybe a less formal way than blogging or writing articles. And the feeling was maybe this was more accessible, more like a conversation, and people would feel less intimidated. So this is my attempt finally to play with that. And then also on a personal note, hiking and backpacking are probably, besides reading, the two favorite things that I love to do. And my chief heroine, Jill, who introduced me to backpacking, has started a podcast, and I'm intrigued by her podcast, and we've had some conversations, and we'll have more conversations about what we do with that and how you reach a community. So again, I'm playing a little bit with both. So professionally today, I am able to do this walk out on a trail. My thing is water and woods, guys. Do you see? I'm next to a beautiful Pine River in St. Clair in the woods on a well-worn trail. This is one of only 2 trails in town. This is a 3-mile loop that I often double loop the interior to get 5. And then we have another cute little 1-mile loop. So we're really flat on the east side of Michigan, and there are times that it frustrates me. I love the west side, I love the North Country Trail, but I also, from a spirit of gratitude, have learned to just be grateful for this trail and that it's here, and the peace of being in the woods 7 minutes from my house. So it's January, Michigan. It's a really dreary day today. There was no sun. We've been lucky that the last couple of days there have been beautiful peaks of sunshine. That's not so today. But working from home means that if I cut out my commute time, which is between an hour and a half and 2 hours daily round trip, that really gives me the opportunity to participate in a local yoga class at the downtown studio and a 3-mile hike, because I do about 15-minute miles. So that's the advantage working from home for me, is that I can put in the same hours and then just grab that fun time from commuting, and instead be more active. So that's what I'm taking advantage of today. Obviously the dog appreciates it too. And working from home has other advantages. I find even my body has a different rhythm of how it functions by being in its own space. I don't get to work from home often as a education administrator. You need to be in classrooms and buildings when school is in session. So it's not very often, especially during the school year. Really, it's during other people's breaks that are technically still my work time that I can take advantage of it. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that, but I also know I don't think full-time from home would work for me, at least not now. I live on my own, and so that's a lot of alone time as it is, and I really get energy interacting with other people, and I think shared conversations and perspectives and ideas make things better. And so you can do that digitally. I suppose I could work on that more, but that's the advantage. So today I took advantage of work from home, and I did work that normally I don't consider proper work hours work. I have grant revisions to do and budgeting alignment and new grants that have come through, another one to align, which then impacts the other things, and blah, blah, blah. No one cares about the details of that. But suffice it to say, it's not to the part I enjoy the most, but it's something that's necessary. So I intended to do that, but I was finishing a book called What Schools Could Be by Ted Dintersmith. He's the one who created the Most Likely to Succeed video based on the work of Tony Wagner, who was a Harvard education researcher. And our district has really embraced Dr. Wagner's work, that what matters most in today's world is students developing 21st century skills, and that content and standardized assessments are what's really keeping us back, even though the system, led by politicians, squeezes more and more and believes that the more rules and regulations and testing and accountability is going to account for more. So our district is wanting to move differently, and we're starting that. We've been a work in progress for the last 3 years, but on Monday we're starting renewed focus with more time for teachers and more autonomy in developing what that means in their classrooms for student learning experiences. So I felt like this was very timely, and you don't often get to do that big picture thinking. So that was fun, actually. First, I like reading, and then second, to have the application. And the thing that I grapple with most in education, my driving question is, can we innovate within the system, the structures, the hierarchy, and that includes community and labor organizations and school boards and politicians and, all of it. It doesn't mean, often when people say that phrase, it's interpreted or meant that, if we had more accountability to teachers and gave away with teachers unions and the fact that we work hard to have teachers stay in the profession and it's hard to get rid of them. I'm not necessarily opposed to those things. I think those can be strengths of our system. So the one thing that I took away from the book as really kind of hope, because it's directed specifically at that question, was near the end, Ted Dintersmith is kind of asking the same thing, but in very different ways and from a different perspective. And his conclusion was systems are really difficult to innovate. But if we look at the local can be innovated. So that's where it starts. So instead of getting overwhelmed by the entire system, moving from county to state to federal, if we look at buildings and districts and localities, that there is much room for innovation for people who will take on that task and take advantage of loopholes and opportunities. So I was encouraged by that as we move forward. So that's my big work thought as we go through. And in a future blog, that's probably all I'd be talking about and just be doing it out on the trail, right? So, I already in my mind think of, as the English teacher I am, editing how could those thoughts and what I be brought to just a standalone podcast on its own. So I told you, the creativity on the trail, it's amazing. And the second part has to do with just being on the trail itself. And there's a lot of women, especially, who have a renewed interest in being outdoors and are finding that either they don't have spouses or significant others that are interested, or their time that they can find if they're stay-at-home moms tends to be during the day when their partners aren't available. But there's a lot of people interested in that. And so I am by no means an expert. I really have a good sense of direction and navigate marked trails well, but I have taken a couple of land navigation classes, and when I'm done with this EDS program, I will probably continue to take 1 or 2 a year, and that's something I'll have to continue to work on. So I'm not a truck across an unmarked trail thing, but I have learned a lot in the last couple of years. And so for people who are just wanting to get started, I just thought I'd share what works for me. So first of all, it's 42, 43 degrees today in southeast Michigan, which is not unheard of in January, but as you can see, there's no snow. We did get a little snowstorm on New Year's Eve, and the grass was covered, and it won't be again for another week or so. And so I always prefer that there's snow, but it's almost harder sometimes to know how to dress in this in-between weather, right? So I'm gonna go ahead. It's a lovely view of the river. I'm gonna go ahead and switch this so you can see me. First, I wanna say, again, the wobbly camera, this is horrible. I'm wearing a hat. I wouldn't necessarily wear a hat, and I am a bit disturbed by the fact that I'm so mismatched today. Like, I don't have to be cover girl ready out on the trail. Obviously, I have no makeup on. I get outside and my eyes water, and I'm a sweater, so I tend not to wear makeup, just moisturizer on the trail. So all of my trail pics on social media are like the real me, right? Not the cute polished photography pictures. So you can see I have a hat on, but really I don't need the hat right now. 42 degrees, I'm probably okay. I have a lightweight REI, Mammut puffy. I am proud to say that my hiking friend, well, just my friend Amy and I have matching ones, and we often look like we're partners in other ways out on the trail because we're matched quite often. And that's just because we end up going shopping together and have the same likes. So underneath, I'm gonna stop for just a minute. You can see the dog's not going to be happy, but underneath this, I have just a light layered wool t-shirt, and then a wool sports bra, and then leggings. Here, let me turn this around. Leggings and waterproof boots with wool socks. And so the leggings, again, are a reflection of how warm it is. Normally in winter, I would have fleeced lined leggings, not my yoga leggings. And if it gets below 40-ish degrees, now if it gets below freezing, last year what I added was a pair of wool base layer underneath the leggings, and that significantly changed how warm and what a good experience it was. My thighs would always get really cold. I probably needed a wool skirt, and that's something that I'll add. If you can tell, I like wool. I will tell you that wool is the best thing, especially for someone like me. By the way, we jog up inclines and call our hiking CrossFit, but or cross training, but that's just an aside. Wool's important. The wool socks, even in summer, I wear it. I know people think wool and it's too hot. It really isn't. Very breathable. You can tell I don't have a big, heavy hooded sweatshirt on. It's warm enough today that I just have a thin wool, long sleeve t-shirt, and that's plenty. So as far as footwear, I limit boots to when it's really muddy and wet, or when I need waterproof. Most of the time I'm in trail runners, and I have found that that works better for me. And if you get a good trail runner, they have some good traction. So unless you're bouldering, you might need some boots then, but I will say that even doing some really rocky walks, that you can do okay. Those trail runners are good stuff. So I don't have gloves on either. No gloves. So I don't have gloves on. I have them in my pocket, and sorry for the dog smelling something here. It's quite exciting. I always keep these. These are just a Smartwool, and they call them a glove liner. And honestly, most of the time, it's the only thing I need. I have gone cold camping, meaning below freezing, 3 times. And the one time it got down to like 16, 15 degrees. So that was pretty cold. But except those exceptions, the single layer of Smartwool really worked fine, because once you get walking and you're moving, and if there's snow, man, you're gonna go less miles because it's a different kind of workout. It's probably okay. So I went longer than I intended. I'm gonna cut off at the 20 minutes. Probably very few people will even see this, but it was fun playing for my first time from the trail.